Good day. My name is James Kolkal, a student of UPOU under the Program of Development Communication. So today I'm here to discuss the research proposal I'm aiming to study. So the study I'm intending to articulate is very visible in this digital era. I would be discussing a communication problem in the modern age called digital divide. Since I'm residing in a foreign nation, which is specifically a country in the Middle East, Bahrain, I would be focusing the aim of the study based on the available respondents I would have. And the specific title of the research proposal I would be discussing is Intergenerational Digital Inequities Among Expatriates in Bahrain. So before I have come up with the study I'm keen to discover, I have read some related materials and similar study to what I'm intending to uncover about the issue. The most notable material I have read that linger in my thoughts about digital divide is a study created by a professor of the academe, Professor Alexander Floor, titled Developing Societies in the Information Age, A Critical Perspective. The study of Professor Floor discussed immense visions and angles of the digital divide in the modern age. The most promising part of the material that caught my attention is a discussion of the information rich and the information poor, where Professor Floor quoted communication theorist Everett Rogers that says, "New ideas may tend to make rich richer and the poor poorer," which is very evident in this modern digital age, where we see people lacking of information because of their inability to access technology and other resources that this digital era can offer, making people with less capacity in accessing into digital world more incapable than those who have them. So let's start by defining what is digital divide. Digital divide is a term that is going to refer the gap between demographic regions between those who have access to the influence of modernity such as mobile phones, personal computer, televisions, and the internet, and those who are restricted or have very limited access to it. Or in a much simpler description, it is a discrepancy of an individual with access to information technology or what we call ICT. Historically speaking, digital divide has been in our society from the moment computer has been invented. In 1940s, when the computer was created and developed, originally it was just primarily available to organizations or groups that are trained and well equipped with the technological use and function of a computer, rather than to those individuals for personal use due to its immense size and staffing required. From this, the divide evolves into a much multifaceted communication issue that circulates to every developing society despite the technological advancement. In fact, if we speak of a digital divide in this modern digital era, we would plainly think that it's not existing at all, because of how we can only see and highlight all this modern innovation in technology and development in our means of communication and accessing information, which overshadowed the problematic side of digital innovation and development, making the gap of digital divide wider from the information poor to the information rich. In fact, if we take a wider look, we are only getting close to the vision of Marshall McLuhan's global village, where he coined our world will be interconnected by an electronic nervous system, which we can relate that to the use of internet and the cyber world that our modern society created. But with the existence of digital divide, it set us back or hold us to a greater path to the global village we are aiming. If we look at figures or numbers of our current findings of the world population, there are approximately 7.7 billions of people in the world, while based on the 2018 Inclusive Internet Index, roughly 3.8 billion of people are actually without internet access, which actually 49% of the population of the world, or almost half of our entire people, are not connected to the global village we are aspiring. In a communication perspective, some of us are familiar with different communication model, or at least encounter it in our academic journey, where we perceive the elementary process of communication. One of the most prominent model and the most basic one I could recognize would be the model of an American political scientist, Harold Laswell, where the components are tend to answer who, which is the sender, says what, which is the message, which channel or the medium used, to whom or the receiver, and with what effect or what we tend to see as a feedback. In this model, it only presents a simple process of communication or smooth and non-rigid flow. But actually, there is another communication model that we can actually correlate to the phenomena of digital divide. This communication model is created by two engineers, Shannon and Weaver, where they present an almost similar model from Laswell but include a very interesting theory in their communication model, where they include the idea of noise as the barrier or a dysfunctional factor in achieving the smooth flow of the process of communication. In observing the communication system of our generation in the digital era, we can relate to this communication model of Shannon and Weaver, where noise is a stage where digital divide occurs in all aspects. That prevents the message or the information of the sender to be received by the receiver of the message because of the dynamic cause of the noise neglecting its capacity to be sent, which is in our case, in the digital divide, prevent those people who are incapable of acquiring modern technologies and those other platforms to fully communicate to other people in the modern digital era or even access information in the first place. This is why taking a minor step in discovering modest remedies, strategies, or recommendation in digital divide would at least create a channel that would bridge the gap or the dysfunctional factor into this communication issue that our generation is facing, which evidently one main reason why I'm very keen to discover and to study this communication issue is because of its relevance to our modern society. In line with their limitations and to be precise in doing the study, I will be focusing in a specific region or country, which is Bahrain. With this, it will give a precise answer to the objectives that the study would be focusing that is only relevant to the target audience, but with a wider representation to answer digital divide. To be lenient in achieving the goal of this study, it will be focusing on the expatriates or non-Bahrainis, since it's very interesting to know that there are more expatriates living in Bahrain rather than the locals itself. In figures, based on the Gulf labor market and migration or GLMM, there are 1,501,116 million people in Bahrain, and of that population, 823,610 are expatriates, people who are non-Bahrainis but live and residing in the country. That makes 54.8% of the population of the country, which makes sense to the relevance of the study to find the digital divide rate in a much larger scale of population. By focusing on the expatriates as the main respondents of the study, it will give a wider scope of response from them since they are composed of different nationalities from both the first and the third world country. And of course, they are composed of different generation age gap, which is one of the most important variable of the study. Since age has been always a deteriorating factor of digital divide, by focusing into this one, it would come up with a much more effective recommendation or solution for this modern communication problem. The study I'm aiming to conduct would primarily answer three main objectives to construct useful recommendation and insight to the communication issue it aims to answer. First, the study will aim to recognize the specific generation age group that penetrates the most contributing factor in the digital divide or inequities among the expatriates of Bahrain. That would follow in determining the fundamental factor or reason affecting the digital divide to the highest penetrating generation age group or of expat in Bahrain. And lastly, it will address the deteriorating factor of digital divide and produce useful recommendation in minimizing it for a future reference. In line with the research design, The study will conduct a mixed method of quantitative and qualitative method to provide comprehensive findings from the respondents of this study. By analyzing and examining generational by generational age group of expats in Bahrain and utilizing a quantitative method for this study, it will measure and provide data with specific generation age group with the highest rate of digital divide by conducting a cross-sectional survey to the target audience. The survey will also recognize other data that would also identify other rudimental figures from the respondents, such as their gender, nationality, profession, and other significant details to make the result of the study relevant to the communication issue it wishes to explain, answer, and give recommendations. The study will also collect further data in a manner of qualitative method to increase more insight and answer from the respondents, directing from the other variables that this study would be focusing, such as being an expat in Bahrain and being included in a specific generation age group. By intrinsically correlating the results of two methods that is used in the research design of this study, this would produce relevant details that can be used in answering the objectives that this study aims to answer and conclude findings that can result to useful recommendations or strategy for a future reference. By following these strategies I arranged and I plot and other rudimentary concepts of research, I'm hoping to find a great and useful outcome to this study that would benefit my community and my target audience. The full relevance of this study is to provide and come up with a recommendation and a great strategy in aiding the digital gap in this country. Thus, it will only be achieved by providing and presenting the applicable or the outcome from the specific variable from this research in hopes to create a minor solution or strategy to the modern communication issue of digital divide in the country or within the target respondents of this study. The study I'm aiming to partake is hopefully a future reference to academically inclined individual, researcher, and other individual who are intentionally aiming to resolve this great communication issue that our modern society is experiencing in hopes to find a full circle solution to this. I hope you all had a clear vision of the study proposal I will be doing in the coming future. I would appreciate any materials or any comments that would help me in doing my research in the future and for this course. Thank you for listening and have a good day.